This should be my final video on the March pack of what is coming. This is the leaks disclaimer that I leaked the Morph Hero Punk Exorcister for the next pack that you are enjoying in game right now. I leaked that the Structure Deck and Sprite were coming 1 week before. All this was exclusive. I leaked the 1 year anniversary a week before it happened. I freaking leaked that Blaster, AFD, and Change of Heart, just these 3 cards would be unbanned, and they were unbanned. There's still some people coping hard saying that I just got lucky and predicted Blaster would be banned. So if you think these are unconfirmed, you're a fool. And there's a chance, but a tiny one, that the pack I'm leaking, if it's not the next pack in March, it will be April instead. I think it's a tiny chance, but, you know, just throwing that out there. These are all, you know, it's leaks, nothing super confirmed. Now, with that said, let's get into the 4th and final leak. Let's do it.
There can only be one winner, and you're looking at it. Let's go.
Are you ready for the 4th leak of the pack? This is the big one. And we got Nimble Beaver here. What is going on here? How is Beaver going to reveal that Tearlament or a Shizu is going to be in the next pack? I don't know. Where is this going? Maybe we're just trolling. Beaver summons a Beaver. Okay, sure. Gigantic Sprite. I think we're summoning Merly from the deck, right? Oh, Diviner of the Herald. Why is this here? Diviner of the Herald, it's old. It sends the thing, the synchro from the extra deck, and then you search for a ritual, right? Ritual. Whoa, it sends a Guido. A Guido from the deck? What the heck? This made Tearlament tier 0. If this is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, I should say, yes, it then activates to both players mill 5. 5 mill. Let's go. Activate. All right, what else did we mill? We milled a Kelbeck. It's got the same exact effect. If this is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, both players could mill 5. Let's mill 5 again. Let's go. Wait, his activated also. Okay, up. There's 20 cards in the graveyard on the very first turn for some reason. Why is that? Because our opponent is also playing a Guido and Kelbeck. The best way to counter this is going to be to play it yourself. You want your opponent to trigger yours, and even better is the humanoid-looking ones. These are Ashizu cards. Mudora and Keldo. You're going to see the power of them right now. What they do is, while in the graveyard or on the field, they have the quick effect to target up to 3 cards in any graveyard. Draw phase, battle phase, end phase, their turn, your turn, it does not matter. Target 3, and then put them back on the deck. It can be 1 from your opponent, 2 of your own cards, spin it. And Mudora's the same thing. They're both hard once per turn, so that's 6 cards back on the deck, and mill 10 with the Kelbeck and the Agido. So let's see where we're going with this. And because of all the mills, maybe you're playing this in Sprite. I'm not saying you should. This is what made Tearlament tier 0, not Sprite a super top tier deck, but maybe could benefit from it. We maybe milled a Sprite Blue, okay? And the blue will grab the jet, and, you know, we'll just go through this normal plays real quick. Not that you care about this part. All right, so what is going to be the benefit of this? Get ready. Activating Runic Fountain. Well, Runic Fountain does not really care about DD Crow because it's going to target 3 cards in the graveyard, and when it targets the 3 cards, you have to banish all 3 with DD Crow, which you can only banish 1 to stop the draw. You banish 1, they still draw 2. Well, you're going to see right here, with Mudora, we're going to target not 1, not 2, but all 3. All 3 get shuffled back in the deck. I'm sorry if my voice is gone. It's been a long stream. Wow, Mudora's got a nice chest, too. Boy, wow. Okay, anyway, it's going to stop the draw completely. So many people say that the Ashizu cards killed Runic, and maybe this will be the way to possibly stop Sprite Runic. Possibly, maybe. Now, this is unprecedented because that means that Ashizu is being released without Tearlament. I promised you all that you'd be surprised by this next pack, and that's the big surprise. This did not happen in TCG. This did not happen in Japan. What happened in TCG is they got Tearlament cards first, then for a few months later, of playing with tier limit, then they got the Ishizu, which made them tier 0. But we're getting it flipped. We're getting the Ishizu cards first, then tier limit. So that stops the Runic Fountain there. And what else does it do? Well, maybe you're playing against a Math Mech deck. What do? They send Sigma, they activate Sigma to special summon on the field. Just from the graveyard, we're gonna spin that Sigma back in the deck. And we're gonna target our own 2 cards to put them back in our deck. So we recycled the semi-limited starter. We recycled our gigantic sprite. You could even recycle your other Ishizu cards and rip Math Mech. You tell me if we have a consistent way to use this effect. All right, and then another thing, the Sprite Elf can trigger the Diviner during the opponent's turn to send another Ishizu Miller. Are you ready? Mill, you mill up, and we decked out. Okay, and so that's that. I still have more leaks to show you. We ended up losing in our own replay due to deck out. Now, let's hop into another duel. You and your opponent both activate them. Yup. All right, let's go. Another cool way to trigger the Ishizu cards is with Herald of Orange Light. Herald of Orange Light was limited to 1 in the TCG and the OCG because of this interaction. Well, we just had a ban list and Herald of Orange Light was not limited. Let me double check that real quick. As you can see there, limited to 1 TCG, limited to 1 OCG. We're gonna have it at 3, so that may be a bit broken here. And I do want to show you real quick that if we look at all the cards before I show you the good stuff, limited to 1 in TCG, limited to 1, limited to 1, limited to 1. They're all limited to 1 in TCG, and because they're not fully limited in Japan, it's still a top tier, tier 0 deck with tier limit. All right, let's have a quick duel. Gonna max C right away. I'm going to negate, sending our Kelbeck. We're going to now mill cards off of both decks to the graveyard. We're going to be using the effect of Agido. Agido from the hand has another effect. If a card is sent from the hand or deck to your opponent's graveyard, which could be the max C or you milling them, you could special summon this and then special summon a monster from your graveyard in addition to its special summon. So Agido reborning the Kelbeck, very good. The Kelbeck has the effect similar to Agido where if your opponent has a card sent from their hand or deck to the graveyard, you could target a special summon monster the opponent controls. You could then return it back to the hand and special summon the Kelbeck. Very cool. Now, what do I want to show you here? The Keldo has an additional effect. Keldo could discard 1 other Earth Fairy to special summon, and then you could add an Exchange of the Spirit trap from a card that is, add 1 Exchange of the Spirit or 1 card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. We're adding this. Exchange of Despair and Hope. If you have 3 fairy monsters on the field, this is pretty much a meme. This is not used in the top tier, tier 0 decks, but maybe you want a more interesting way to play this. Let's talk about this. We have 3 fairies in the field. You send the entire field to the graveyard of monsters, and then you and your opponent get to choose from each other's graveyards to summon onto their field per card sent to the graveyard. So let's see what that looks like. We're gonna set that. Beaver Warrior, we want to disrupt that. So this is non-targeting send to the graveyard. We all know how powerful it is to not have to target, and send does not destroy. Send it all. Because we sent 1 Beaver Warrior, we can look at the opponent's graveyard and summon 1 Dark Magician. We sent 3 of our own monsters to the graveyard, so our opponent gets to summon 3 Blue Eyes from our graveyard. Okay, that's that. What the heck? Another funny card among the Shizu cards is Blast Held by Destiny. I'm going to show you a better card after this. What's cool about this is if this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, and what are we doing? We're milling a ton, so you're going to mill this. After you mill this, you get to add it to your hand. And then, if your opponent declares an attack, you can destroy 1 monster with the highest attack, and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. And if you don't have Exchange of the Spirit in your graveyard, you also take the damage. Kind of funny. Now, this card is actually pretty freaking good. Some of the top tier deck players were playing this. Mudora is a monster that if you discard 1 other Earth Fairy to special summon this, you could place the Gravekeeper trap from your deck into your back row. And what this states is if you have exchange of the spirit in your graveyard, which you're milling a ton of cards, so randomly you're just going to have it in the graveyard, you could then use this card to make it so your opponent cannot activate card effects in the graveyard and cannot special summon from the grave. So I could already tell you a deck like Mathmech, they're screwed. They love to summon from the graveyard with Diameter, Allenbert, Sigma. Even if you're playing against Sprite, you randomly have this set up. They can't elf from the graveyard. That's a big deal. And what else do you have with this card? You could, during the main phase, you could discard any card to add a Gravekeeper or Earth Fairy from your deck to your hand. So any of the Ishizu cards you could now add from your deck to your hand. So it searches them and floodgates your opponent. We all love floodgates here. And then this really weird effect. During your opponent's draw phase, before their normal draw, if this card is already face up on the field, declare a card name. So what would happen in the TCG, and I saw this in a tournament, this would be face up and the opponent would not acknowledge this card and they would accidentally draw and potentially shuffle up their hand, and that would cause a lot of issues because you're before their normal draw. I can't think of another card that works like this. A card like Drop Off is after your opponent draws. I know there were issues in the past with this. Your opponent draws, and then you activate this to then discard that card. But before they draw, you declare a card name, then look at the drawn card for their normal draw, and if it was the declared card, you send it to the graveyard. And so that's a funny little effect in addition to it having the floodgate and searching your deck for Gravekeeper or Earth Fairy monsters. And that's it. That's the Ishizu leak. And I do want to show you real quick that what happened with this deck. If we go down to Pasadena, this is where we have 26 Ishizu tier limit in the top 32. This is tier 0 when it looked something like this. But they're probably going to all be limited to 1 or semi-limited. I don't have leaks on what if they're going to be limited or not. And again, what are we doing with them without the tier limits for a month? You tell me. Give me ideas, because my idea was, as you saw in my replay, Gigantic Sprite, Summon Diviner, maybe play this in Sprite. That could be funny. And that is it. That's the leak for Ishizu. We are out.